Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hello, everybody. It's your ride. So let's get to it. Bring the pain!
What's up, everybody? It's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you and Dr. Roto this week. Ooh, yeah. I have a special guest on. It's Angelo from We Want Picks. This is truly an honor. How you doing today, Angelo?
I'm doing well. How are you? What a fancy little intro you got there.
A little bit, man. That's the team behind me. If I didn't fight so much, I could actually do a lot more work, but the problem is I fight way too much. 5 days of karate this week.
Oh, so really?
Yeah, that's what I am. I'm a point fighter for a team that travels. So, yep, that's who I am. I know you're a wrestler.
Yeah, wrestling my whole life. I mean, I'm 42 now, so not exactly getting after it. But, been training jiu-jitsu since 2004, so squeak that in when I can. But, yeah, for the most part, just suburban dad that does podcast stuff.
Yeah. That's what makes podcasting great. You can reach out, you can collaborate, have moments like this where somebody and a team like you, the team you have around you, by the way, is amazing. But then you can also get in with the fight theory and stuff. And that's, for me, that's been a big part of it. Like I said, I'm a UFC rookie. I watched Ken Shamrock versus Dan Severn. Literally the first match. It was part 2. So that's the one Severn won, of course. And then I didn't get back into it till about the Tito Ortiz Shamrock come on now. That was that. And then, of course, Liddell followed him. Rousey brought me back in, saw a little bit of Jones, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, Nunez is awesome, but I've never been consistent until now. And that's what's made this sport so much, and then learning it and then watching it. Do you feel the same way?
I've been watching since day one. So I don't even remember how I came across it, but like a kid. And if you remember back in the day, there were descramblers. So
yes.
Any paid channel, whether it was Filth or movies that just reran, it was all scrambled on the TV, but you could hear it. And my cousins in New York had a descrambler. So it's the version of a cracked Fire Stick nowadays. So you could watch all those channels. So when we would go every Sunday dinner, we'd drive to New York, do the whole Italian thing, and we would watch UFC that would just replay as a pay-per-view. So I've been watching UFC since day one. I saw every single one, like at my cousin's house on Sundays. Yeah. Then it became illegal because it was, unregulated and it was chaotic. And when it became illegal, I would have to go buy the VHS tapes at like Sam Goody and all these stores. And I kept up with it then, and then it came back. And so I have been watching since day one. Awesome. But as a day one kind of guy, I've seen, you mentioned you've been inconsistent. I've seen those bumps, right? There's the day one crew that just wanted violence. Then there was... The next big jump was the Tito Ortiz era, and not original Tito, but the Tito and Shamrock and then Tito and Truck rivalry. There was that whole piece brought in a lot of people. Then the Ultimate Fighter obviously was a huge jump. The Ultimate Fighter is what took the UFC from literally hemorrhaging money and about to go out of business to a viable sport. Yep. And then the next big jump was Conor McGregor, and then the next big jump after that was COVID. Because UFC was the only sport that existed. So the last 5 years has brought in a whole new era of fight fans that have shown up because they got to watch it during COVID.
That's right. And, so when I do the Fight Club of Pain, my co-host, Dan, he literally has done the same thing you've done. He's watched it all these times. He's like 43. So he has the same pathway, trajectory kind of where I'm 47, so like I was like a macho man, duty kind of guy, wrestling coming in, and I had the black box as well too, and so I was getting my wrestling pay-per-views, and then the UFC came on, and I'm like, why not? It's free. Yeah. This is like brutality. I mean, this is at the same time of life when Faces of Death came out on VHS. So,
oh yeah, bum fights, Faces of Death, a wild VHS era.
It was, and for us, that's all we had. We just couldn't go to YouTube and plop it on. But now we have this format and everything. So that's exactly it. What inspired you to start We Want Picks?
So technically speaking, I started We Want Picks in 2016, and that's when DraftKings Fantasy, not DraftKings the sports book, that's when DraftKings Fantasy added UFC. So in 2016, it's basically fantasy football, but for fights. You would get a salary and you draft your fighters, and me and a few people would compete with each other doing that. We all loved the sport, and now we had a cool way. This is before sports betting was even viable outside of Vegas. So we started doing that. And I bought WeWantPicks.com, and it was a blog, and I would just write who the fighters are and who wins, who loses, who you should have in your lineup or not. Then I had my first kid. So that went away fast. I was like, I don't have time for all this. Then COVID came around, and, I had still been a diehard UFC fan, but now some of my other friends started to become UFC fans, and it was the only sport on, and I moved here in Texas, and so my neighbors were coming over. So we really started to get into competing with each other on DraftKings Fantasy, and I brought in new people. So I was going to YouTube to do research on fighters I've never heard of before, and I came across these two Canadians. They don't do it anymore. Fight Night Picks, and I saw their breakdown of like this fighter versus this fighter, and here's who they are. And I was using that for my DraftKings, and then a few however long of that, I was like, dude, we could do this. We could do this. We can break down fights. We're like normal, funny, like. And we'll bring the whole element of like, I managed professional fighters forever. My buddy Jacob, who I do the show with, he didn't. He has no real background in any of it. I'm like, that could be our dynamic. So we started with 4 of us, and then it dwindled down to 2 just because life gets in the way. And so that's basically saw somebody else do it and said I could do that, and started doing it.
Yeah, and that's practically it. So like when I stepped onto the scene and Super Bowl had ended and everything, because at Dr. Roto, we're huge into football. We just had our baseball write-up yesterday, put out a $2,000 winner. And it's just crazy sometimes when you get into the DFS side of things and how it's changed, how there's less money in it now, but how being unique, it leads down different paths. And that's, eventually we are going to talk about the DFS, UFC side of things. But yeah, you bring that up. And so for me as a point fighter, I'm trying to find the angles. I have to watch all this fight tape. And I guess I kind of put the NFL on the side. And now I'm getting back into that. So the next month's going to be complete chaos. And then I get to see what an actual system looks like when I have a live NFL season and UFC fights going on. But you know what? We do it for the love of the customers, the subs, the people, the fans. It brings all of us together to do something similar, whether it be betting or playing DFS. That right there, lineup construction, huge part of that. And, that's something that I love to do with people. I'd rather somebody take that advice and win $1 million rather than me win $1 million. Because for me, it's about the passion and the joy. It feels nice to win money when we win money. But at the same time, that's kind of my feeling. Do you feel that same way?
Fuck no. I could win $1 million? You out of your mind?
Yeah, I mean,
if you said, hey, Angelo, you win $1 million, or some other random person you don't know, yeah, me. I pick me.
Hell yeah.
But to your point though, obviously we sell our own premium service on our own website,
Yes.
and literally I was checking my Twitter DMs for this link, and while checking, I got a DM from somebody that said, I just won $10,000 using your optimizer. And that obviously I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And that's awesome for 2 reasons. One, happy for that guy, happy that somebody that took the time to go to my website, whether it was to support us or to, get a cheat code to make some money. For whatever reason, I'm happy that it worked out for them. I'm happy for me because, hey, this is working, and I'm going to screen down shot the hell out of that and send it to the world. And happy for that guy as well. So, yeah, of course, I want to see – nothing makes me happier than the collective we at We Want Picks have a phenomenal night, and then the many, many thousands of people in that universe that either watched the free videos or went to the website, everybody made money. Nothing makes me happier than that. But if I have to choose between you or me and $1 million, me. I choose me. Every 10 out of 10 times, won't even hesitate.
Sometimes I guess I'm too brash. I'm too brash, man. But yeah, I would love that. It definitely 3 weeks ago, I had that moment. My DFS lineup, went to bed. We're looking at 5 digits. And I'm like, this is never, I always call myself the bridesmaid of DFS for a reason. And it's because it's like, oh, look, I go to sleep first place, wake up in the morning, 20 points, I'm under now. And here we go with, a $750 day, which is still not bad at all. Not bad. I'm not going to deny that at all. I was able to take that money and bring up the co-host, Dan, and we went to Waldemere here in Erie for a whole day at the amusement parks, riding rides. He had not been there for 15 years. So it's like, just something to do. I love to do stuff like that. And I think that's what's unique about the UFC community. Since I've been diving into more of it, I see a collective community, as you're saying, and just the way that people, you get those few knuckleheads that kind of go, blah, 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 blah. And then you go, hey, dude, if you're going to play the wrong bet, you're playing the wrong bet. In the end, they're the ones who push that button. They place the bet. We just direct them towards that way. That's what we do. So, I have it like, we can go back. We could talk about Ricci's knockout yesterday. I thought that fight was going over, but I was like, you know what? I'm playing the 1,000 knockout for both. If you're going to give me a knockout line for plus 1,000, who's not going to put money on that? Just if it happens, it happens. It did. So it did. I didn't care which one of those girls won yesterday. I just wanted that knockout to happen.
Yeah, that overscrewed me, I'll tell you, or that underscrewed me, I'll tell you that. And that's this is a wild sport, and sometimes I'm a victim of my own success, meaning we've built something pretty big. Like we built something with a meaningful amount of viewers and people who interact with us, and people love us no matter what. People will hate us no matter what. Like that's the internet, right? And we're kind of a victim of our own success because we have so many eyes and so much pressure. And when something does well, the expectation will do well forever. For example, I have what I call a safety parlay. And historically speaking, it's done unbelievably well. 3 years of doing well. Every single result is on the website so you can see. And the last couple of weeks, it has not done well at all. And it's just like, you're an idiot. How could this be? And I had the over 2.5 in that fight in the safety parlay. And obviously, it's easy to be a genius the next morning and be like, how could you? But the reality is these are fist fights, and it is chaos in these fights. And the Ricci example is a great one because every metric that has ever existed in the history of their fighting history said this fight will go over 2.5 rounds. Neither one of them are particularly dangerous. They're both very tough. And then we have a first round that was like, this fight could go 29 rounds. And then we get to that second round, and all of a sudden there's one random one elbow against the cage that literally hits the eyeball, and it changed the whole fight. And that's, as a fight fan, that's what makes this sport wild, and I love it. As somebody who's trying to make a couple of bucks while watching the fights, moments like that are either amazing because of a plus 1,000 payout in the chaos, or like, oh my God, I can't rely on anything anymore. So it's an unbelievable... It's a wild ride. It's a wild ride.
It is. And, you get that with the other DFS sports. You get that with football. But I think football is a little more centralized because of how popular it is. Baseball, you can definitely be contrarian. Like Nick Kurtz, the 4 home runs, 8 RBIs the other day. That's just insane. That only happens. That goes back to the Chisenhall so many years ago when Lonnie Chisenhall hit 3 home runs, 12 RBIs for the Cleveland, now Guardians. So when you make calls like that and stuff, that's stuff we love to do. Like for me, when I made the DeRitter call against Nickel, I picked DeRitter to win that fight, or Nickel to win that fight. But I said, you know what? Those knees by DeRitter are freaking insane, and we saw that again today or yesterday. And I go back to it. I says, why not? Why can't a knockout happen? So that's why sometimes I look for those bets. I'll throw down a unit, 2 units on that, but then you always head yourself back to it. But it's like you said, the chaos. When I was point fighting a few tournaments ago, this one guy, he's kind of frustrated with me. I've been kind of beating him and his teammate for a few years now, and he decided to actually bum rush me and blitz. You could call it the blitz. That's what I'm actually key at. I'm a huge blitzer. I've been working my sidekick in, but in my division 35 plus point fighting, there's not a lot of guys my age that can really kick consistently because of hip surgeries, et cetera, being an old man. So, and I've had my knee surgery blown out from football, turf injuries, things like that. But he literally blitzed me, and all it took was just me one step back, and everything was open. I mean, it's on full video. I push his arms down, and I pop him in the face. And just like Liel, he just goes down, but I was able to catch him while he was going down, walk him to the table, and then, of course, they award him the point. Because they had been yelling at me for that tournament. I was pretty sure I was going to be disqualified.
Why, you're not allowed to do that?
Not in point fighting, because it's
Oh.
got the karate background. You have to make sure you have control. But that was him jumping at me, dude.
Oh,
He
you
was
ran-
in
yeah.
mid-air. So I'm like, what? Of course he's coming down with that. But at the same time, they were a little pissed. The previous fight was, and this was a 5-point fight. I made an 8-point fight after they were arguing because I kept blitzing this fool because he was just standing on the line. So I continuously knocked him down, and they weren't calling. The one judge got so mad at me, he wouldn't recognize the blitz technique anymore. So then by the time all the gibberish 3-minute fight that was supposed to be to 5, I won 3-1 and then ran through the other people. So sometimes there's rules with what I do, but in the concept, you still look for openings, you look for attacks. There's still continuous fighting, which means there's no stoppage and that more blows can happen. So that's how point fighting works.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've seen a couple of when I was younger and was competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments, and this is jiu-jitsu wasn't as big as it is now. Obviously, now it's especially UFC's trying to make it its own individual sport with belts. We would do a lot of like super fights. I'd be in like super fights at karate tournaments and stuff like that. So I would see the karate tournaments, and I remember being like, "Holy shit, they're getting," and they're just like beating the hell out of each other's chests, and I'm like, "This is nuts." Yeah. And then we'd go after that.
Yeah. So yesterday, instead of going down to Pittsburgh and fighting those same people I just talked about, and they went on my social media. They're like, "Hey, missed you, bud." And then the other guy actually beat the other guy, and he goes, "It's not the same without the King of the Ring here." And I'm like, "But bro, I went." So we did a food drive in Buffalo, and there was a BJJ guy there, but there was only a few BJJ guys. The rest of the kids, of course, were doing karate, and then they had a world champion, Nick Kane. He was there. My daughter, who's a black belt, she's there. So we came up from TKO Erie to do this food drive, bring in some money to, just feed people. And we got to do this tournament. Well, instead of fighting them, I got to fight Nick Kane. And I don't get that option all the time because in a tournament, we're not the same age bracket. We're not the same. I mean, this dude's like 27, huge legs, super fast, way young. I'm sitting here 47 trying to get with it, right? But we put out a great fight yesterday. It wasn't recorded or anything, but when you get that opportunity to step in, you take it. And of course, I can still feel my daughter's kick to my side, her side kick to my neck for blitzing. Again, blitzers can get caught. And then he caught me 4 times with the side kick right on my rib. The last one was really powerful, but you're right.
Yeah,
the power's there. You get hit, but you got to take the hits. Kind of like, a lot of the other people learned what we saw yesterday. You got to, and you brought this up on your podcast, and I'm going to let you take this out from here. You said that these big fighters all build body looks the great, and then you got Gravy Martin Boudet beating the hell out of dude. So weigh in on that. You make that thing, it's a fight comparison. That is exactly what I love.
The Martin Boudet thing was interesting because I broke that down ahead of time without odds. And I was like, I think Martin Boudet's going to win this fight, right? We got this big jacked up jiu-jitsu nerd, but that's it. If he can't get it to the ground, he doesn't have much to offer. And Martin Boudet isn't anything special to look at, but this dude is at least a well-rounded fighter. And then when that fight started, he was worse to look at than I even imagined, but he was the better fighter. And this is fighting. And sometimes you could be a wild specialist. Sometimes you could be so good at one thing that's all you need. But other times, this is an MMA fight with multiple skills and techniques. And you have somebody like Martin who can defend takedowns, can get his hands going. He can do multiple things versus a guy that's relying entirely on getting this fight to the ground. And if he can't, he's screwed. And you know what? If he was a nasty wrestler, maybe he's good. But to only be good at jiu-jitsu and not have the wrestling component of it, that's not, you have nowhere to go against guys with good takedown defense. And that's sort of what we had. And Martin Boudet was one of the sloppiest people I've ever seen in my entire life. He looked like a popsicle half melted. But the reality is he has actual fight skills. And if the dude ran a quarter of a mile once a week, that fight would have been even wider than it was. But we're still in an era. The sport is still new. It's 30 years old or whatever it is, 33 years old. It's still a new sport. So we don't have multiple generations. Obviously we literally do, but you get my point. We don't have many generations of fighters. We have the first era who were just people that wanted to just swing and go nuts. There was no real money in it. Then we had the second generation where there started to be money in it, but these are still people that had like bad upbringings and turned to fist fighting. Now, just now, we're finally starting to get the actual athletes who are choosing to do this. But we still haven't fully engulfed ourselves in that. We still have people like the guy Martin Budai just beat, Marcus Buchecha, who are good at one thing and trying to go into MMA. We still don't have a full clean slate of true MMA athletes. And when that comes, then we'll start to really have a much more reliable sport. For now, it's a crapshoot with what you're going to get, who's good, who sucks, who belongs there, who doesn't.
Yeah. And I think I've heard some people say that sometimes them going to the every week prep format can kind of diminish that value, but I don't mind it as a person because this gives a shot to a lot of people that didn't. Like them bringing back King Green, that I didn't even see that happening. And then here we are. We got King Green coming back. Okay, whatever. Just throw him on some crap. But I got to say, dude, the funniest thing is when the whole fight card starts and Budai goes running out to the middle of the ring, I'm like, what the I'm like, did he just run to the middle of the ring? I did not expect that at all, but I laughed my ass off when I saw that shit. I was like, what the? This dude's just running to the middle of the ring. And
that's the longest distance he's ran in the last 6 years.
Needs to do that more often. But,
you
know, that's what I like about this sport, and that's what I've been bringing. I want to help bring this sport to the forefront like you've been doing and let people understand the reason that SiriusXM Fantasy doesn't recognize DFS, UFC, or doesn't even allow somebody to talk about it for 15 seconds because of how big football is. They're so scared about losing those ears, but they're not taking that chance on what's going on around them. I think, and this is my opinion, but I feel and think that UFC DFS is completely unique for the Leal reasons, for the upsets, for the Badais winning, you know, and then you brought up everybody's biggest play, you know, Bogdan. That dude right there, he was around 37%, 30% owned. But again, going back to Badai, I got him at 8% owned, 18% owned, depending on the kind of slate that you're at. So when you're able to get something like that, that is the same distance that we're trying to do with football and baseball. I feel it should be talked about, and it should be talked about on a bigger scale more than just us guys trying to make sure and that's my feeling on that. How do you feel about that same thing?
Yeah, I mean, UFC DFS is very unique, and what I think separates it from some of the other sports is the other sports are established. You have 50 years. Actually, how many years has NFL been around? Is it 50? Is it more than 50?
19. That's going back to Red Grange.
Yeah, so you had 100 years of NFL data and stats and statistics,
yes.
And obviously there's been some evolutions, but at this point, the surprises are few and far between. They're team sports. You have people with unlimited data building entries and competing at that level, and they have it down to a science. There's no heart and soul in it anymore.
Nope.
It's quite literally like, here's the numbers, here's the stats, here's what we're doing. MMA is a different animal. We have a ton of data, like quite literally us at We Want Picks. We have a ton of data. We have tools. We have but at the end of the day, there's still a human element to say, honestly, I know what all of this data is saying, but that's not what's going to happen here. And yesterday was a good example with Billy Elikana, Ibo Aslan. Ibo Aslan's this jacked up dude who's knocking everybody out in the first 10 seconds. Billy Elikana is not quite as exciting. He was a middleweight, up in weight, but he was long. And I'm like, he backs up. He moves. He's not a guy that gets after it. He's not really going to give you that opening. Yeah. And he's durable. So I don't see this fight being a quick knockout. I don't see this fight ending that early. First, I'm going to pick Billy to win, and he was a 3-1 dog. Second, I think this fight goes a little long. Yeah. None of the data pointed to that, though. Literally all of the data said it would be an early finish for the other guy. So there is a much more of a human element because A, it's not a team sport. B, it's a freaking fist fight. At one random punch changes everything. And if we go back to the example of the lady fight, that elbow to the eye quite literally broke a metal plate in her eye. Tabitha Ricci has never finished a sandwich, let alone a fighter inside the octagon. So for that to happen was insane.
Yeah.
That
yeah, I
doesn't
agree.
really happen in the NFL. Obviously, there are crazy, there's crazy plays. And last year, what's his name jumped over a human being backwards. There's stuff like that, but
Saquon.
for the most part, things are relatively like those lines are dialed in, and it's just a math formula that works through everything else. So the human element of MMA is what separates it from every other sport. And I fully understand the logic of like, hey, NFL is king, talk about NFL, and that's fine. And you know what? For that chunk of time, talk about NFL.
Yeah.
But there is an entire 2 seasons of the year where the only meaningful sport on is MMA. Nobody cares about regular season baseball. Nobody cares about, dead winter. Obviously, NFL is king, but we're still early-ish in the season, and that's a few days a week where every single Saturday, there's 52 weeks in a year, and there's 48 UFC events or something like that. Like there's a couple random 1 weekend breaks, and then at the end of the year, a 2 weekend break. Outside of that, every single Saturday, and it's kind of short-sighted to ignore that consistency. I understand football is king, and the money you make in that tiny window will eclipse anything you make in a full year of MMA. But I think there definitely should be a little more investment, a little more exposure, whether it's sports talk radio, certainly in the summer with MMA. It is there every single Saturday, no matter what.
Exactly. And we're talking about comparing somebody standing at a plate waiting for the pitcher to throw a ball, which is the most boring thing at times to actually do, unless you want to be like, hey, look, that guy looks great over there. He's awesome. He's going to throw a slider. And that's great, but nothing beat watching Stephen Wynn take a baseball-sized eye that went wrapping to his ear. I was like, I didn't know it could do that. I didn't know that could possibly happen. I've seen things crazy happen. My daughter, unfortunately, she got knocked out last tournament early in the summer. Had to watch that, professional. But she's still a superstar at what she does. She's still going to go back out there and do that. But when you see things like that happen, you're like, whoa, that was freaking wild. When you seen that thing growing, you knew they were going to stop that in the second, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, they should have stopped that fight way earlier. And anybody who didn't watch, this guy was knocked down 6 times in the first round. And not like, ooh, I fell on my butt, that was questionable. Like, fell down like a tree that was cut at the bottom, knocked down. And it was bizarre that it wasn't stopped, frankly. It was very bizarre that it wasn't stopped. And then it continued, and there were more knockdowns. Quite literally, a record was set with the amount of times that this guy was knocked down. He had one moment in the fight where he landed his own clean punch, and it was like, okay. But every other minute of that fight was that guy just building CTE. It made no sense that it continued. The eye was almost like the final excuse for them to stop it, because without the eye, they were just going to let this dude get knocked unconscious 10 more times.
I do agree with that. I mean, 10, maybe 14. This was out of hand. I was sitting there just walking, and it was like every time dude threw the kick, it was like whoop, right? And it was like boom, down. And it wasn't just like you said, it was like timber trees falling. He was hitting the ground, he got mounted, and he's getting knocked, and I'm honestly getting knocked back to life, if that's what was happening.
Yeah.
He got knocked back to life at least 5-6 times, of course. He gets out of that round, like you said, and you're just like wondering, because you brought up that the last 10 seconds, that should have just been called. I'm like, this is done. It's not good. Get that second round, he gets to that little thing. But then after that, you knew Win was like, done. I'm done with you. I'm going to punish the shit out of you. And then that's when that thing just kept getting better. And I was like, why is nobody stepping in? This man's eye's literally growing, and he's punching it continuously.
It was disgusting.
It was like, wow, okay, all right. Hey, that's what we love to see. That was definitely one of the happiest finishes that we have. And that's kind of what we look for, and that's what separates it. Now with DraftKings, I wanted to definitely talk about this with you. The DraftKings snake draft. Have you checked it out yet? Because I know I sent you some. Oh, dude, you would love it so much. You would like. Is it available where you're at?
I'm in Texas. Everything outside of we can't do DraftKings Sportsbook, but DraftKings Fantasy and their Pick 6, that's all fully available.
Okay, so yeah, we don't get the picks like that and stuff. So, like I was explaining, it's just like fantasy football, like you said. You get the draft. There's no salary included, anything at all. It's a 3-man league, and you could throw down starting at 1, 5, 10. I threw down a 10 this week just to, just have fun with it. And took first, luckily, because, that lineup practically I had Steven win, so that right there got me. I was a little worried about DeRitter, and of course he had DeRitter and Whitaker, so I was like, man, he's got it both if he does good.
Yeah.
And actually, both of them ended up catching him. I won that 250 to 220, I think it was. But it's just three people picking four fighters. Best man, best woman wins. And that's I just thought it was a really good thing because like with DK, you get the bigger contest. You get the $120,000 prize, blah blah blah, big thing. But when you go to FanDuel, you don't get that. You get like a 4,000 or 5,000 limit, $8 contest. Top prize is $5. And it's like, all right, guys, I see what we're doing here. We're limiting. But the fact that I just thought it was a fresh ad for DK on that. And I found so much fun with it recently.
So it's just you and two strangers, and you just
Yep.
draft. I get a fighter, you get a fighter. I get a
Yep.
fighter, you get a fighter. Yeah, that's a cool concept.
And then you snake back. So like if you're the third draft, you get the third and fourth pick. So that's a really nice, unique move right there too. You can really grab who you want. And it just adds a little flair to it. But they're not. You just put it up. I was like, man, can we get a fourth guy in this thing?
But how many
I think
fighters do you put in a lineup?
It's so because it's a best ball format. 3 start and you get 1 reserve. The top 3 scores win. Go in.
That's cool. That is a cool concept. I'll have to check it out and give it a try because that is a definitely a fun twist. Can you invite people? Like, can you
Yes.
do it with 3 people of your choosing? Yeah, that's cool.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I was just like, holy crap. I already kind of thought about that too. I was like, man, if 2 people on the same team kind of took in and were on the stage, but let's not talk conspiracies here. 'Cause
I'm sure they've considered all avenues, and I bet that money
DK's
doesn't
smart.
work.
Yeah, that's not going to work. They will catch your ass and they will ban your account. That is for a fact. But the fact that you can do that, it's just so fun. I came in, I think on that lineup, I got Liao, which he went down. And then I had Blackshear. And then, of course, I had Win. And then I want to say my 4th guy, I can't even remember right now offhand. But it was one of the favorites. He won, but he only got like 70 or 80 points. So it allowed me to get to that 250 plateau. But it's just, like I said, it's fun. And, maybe that's something for you guys to go, you and Jacob, to put your money together and see like, hey, who's really running their mouth now, or I'm going to pick the wrestlers and Jake's going to do his wild ass shit. Like, it just, to me, is one of those fun little concepts that I see the innovation with DK. And that goes back to where I think mainstream sometimes doesn't respect the sport yet. But as long as people like us keep talking about it, we're going to be able to make this thing happen in the future. Bigger contests, more fun things.
Well, and I also think the industry is moving towards actual sports betting and less DFS. Obviously, DFS is more widely available in most places, but if sports betting was regulated sports betting, because you can use offshore books in most states, perfectly legal. Like, I'm in Texas, I can use Bet Online, I can use Bet US, I can perfectly legal. It's not regulated though, so if I have an issue, there is no governing body. It is what it is. But if sports betting was regulated and legal in every single state, I don't know where DFS goes. I do think the biggest issue for DFS is sports betting.
Yeah, I agree. We have actually been focusing a lot more on that on the Dr. Roto site. We're able to bring on the betting onto the site instead of having, because of credit card reasons, you can't have betting and DFS on the same site if you take a credit card for payment, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to jump that through, but now that that's all allowed, we're able to put the bets on and the DFS plays, and that's kind of where we go with that. But dude, you're right. DFS is almost dying, and that's because the money has become double ups. You can't make that. So like when I had that big lineup a couple weeks ago, was able to go in, I'm only putting in 1 lineup. I'm not a max lineup guy. We have those tools too, kind of like your optimizer, the DK optimizer, FanDuel optimizer. We have all that for baseball, football. Heck, that wins a lot of people money. If you put 150 lineups in, you're going to win some money. But to go straight up and get something like that and do it, that just shows that you can, again, goes back to the fight theory, but making this sport move forward, doing what makes it more innovative and having it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely an environment where everything depends on how exciting the fight cards are and how excited people are for them. So we see that in our numbers. We do anywhere from 400,000 to 550,000 unique views a month on YouTube.
Yep.
And the only difference in that stream of views, it's not the quality of the content. The content is always the content. It is quite literally how good the fight cards are or are not. And if they are good fight cards that people are excited about, our views are through the roof. Our UFC 318 views were through the roof.
Yeah.
Our UFC 317 views through the roof. Our 316 views, just okay. And that's not us. That is quite literally just the quality of the fight card. So where the UFC needs superstars and they need well-built full cards to sell as a product, traditional sports have diehard loyal fans of the logo. I am a Steelers, and this isn't actually me, but I am a Steelers fan through and through, no matter what. I don't care who they're playing. I don't care if it's supposed to be a blowout. I don't care. I will watch that game every Sunday, no matter what. MMA doesn't have there. Some of us are like that, right? I will literally watch every fight, whether I had the YouTube channel or not. And there's a faction of people in that category, but there's a giant chunk, probably the 80%, that watch the big stuff. Yeah. And it's a sport very reliant on hype, very reliant on marketing, very reliant on the quality of the fight card. So it gets a little tricky sometimes to build any meaningful momentum if the fight cards just aren't there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you brought that up, the Pantoja Taporia fight card. Holy crap. It was the first time other than football, and this was Super Bowl. Super Bowl had the big number for us. Like when we did that, Doc came on and we were over 500 live views, but that just happens because Doc is Dr. Roto. And so, but when we did that card, we got 230 at once. And I was like, oh, whoa, okay. Normally we're getting like 40 to 60, which isn't bad. But then you get that and you're like, oh, okay. But it shows in the card. It shows with the quality of the card. But like you said, we're going to be here. And then making that DFS, that's why I always try to include DFS, because DFS is, I don't think it'll ever leave. I don't want it to leave because I still think it has the unique values to it where you could throw down $1 and you can make $3,000 or $5,000 off of it instead of having to worry about odds. It comes down to the lineup building, which was a big part of what I say my learning curve for the UFC was being able to take my same modules, move them to fighters, and then pull them in. Practically move it like a showdown slate for football, or you could say like a Monday, Thursday slate. That way you have only 4 teams to pick from, et cetera, so many players. So you have to be unique, but you have to like move it. One of our guys last year actually maxed entered one of the Thursday contests, just a straight Thursday showdown alone with 150, and he hit huge 75K because, and I think that's what makes this sport, again, unique on the DF side, because other people are used to seeing percentages around 20 or 30. Oh, that's going to be over-owned or that. In the UFC, that's actually okay, but if you can get a 25-20, great. If you can get a 17 or 8, that's even better. And that was like Ricci, I pulled her. She was an 11%. And then like I was saying with Boudet, he was at 9%. But then Michael Johnson was a 6% owned on some of the big slates a few weeks ago. And so that always gives me that unique idea of lineup building. And that's a big thing. I know that I watched you guys when you guys do your DFS stuff, and I'm like, holy crap, you guys are just putting it in, getting it in. And that's what made people like Boudet such a key to this card this week. But when you go betting, it's just so much easier when you know the fighters, you know what they can do, as we've been talking about throughout this podcast, is, okay, well, I know that there's a chance for submission. Let me put just a little action on that. You don't have to do a full unit. Now let me hit this. And then with UFC betting, which I think it completely makes it different and better. Instead of having to build ladders, you can build finishes. You can have the first round knockout. You can have the first and second round knockout. You can have 1, 2, 3. You can have the overall knockout to cover if the other fighter gets lucky. And for that right there, that's why, and that's what I'm going to say, makes this sport unique, special, and great to be part of, man.
No, it's definitely it's a ton of fun. It's wildly exciting. It's heartbreaking because God knows what's going to happen. And the ownership numbers you ran through, a lot of that has to do with last night, for example, there was 12 fights. So that means there's only 24 fighters to choose from. And before the fights happen, the reality for a lot of people are, of these 24 fighters, 8 of them have no chance whatsoever to win. There's just not a world where this fighter wins. So they're immediately eliminated from your lineups. So now, now you went from 24 to 16. And I did that math like that. Congratulations to me.
You did, man.
But the reality is there's just fewer people to choose from. So finding that spot, finding that underdog is huge, where if you're NFL, baseball, there's too many people to pick from. So the ownership ends up being a little more level and not as, not such dramatic swings. So it's just the nature of the sport itself.
And that's what sites like ours and your site teach all the time, with all the tools that you guys have, all the numbers, the fight theory, the fight simulator that you have, that you guys talk about it. Talk a little bit about your tools too, because I know that took a lot of work to put in to actually make. So that deserves a spot. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So we're in like a unique position. So we're out here breaking down fight cards and break down 12 fights and 24 different fighters, who this guy is, how this fight should go, and who I think wins. And then on top of that, here's some bets I think work. And we do that. And then we said, we need more. We need to give people more. It's got to be more than just a list of bets. We have to give people some tools as well. And we started with a pretty basic Draftkings optimizer. We leased one. And we put that on the site. You can use this. Then we built what we call a line movement tracker. So it's going to give you the opening odds for every fight, the current odds, so you can see the movement, and then it'll translate to win percentage and things like that. And then we started to add data. Like, hey, some of our audience wants to just copy paste. Another chunk of the audience wants to do their own research. So here's a bunch of data. Do your own research. And then we just continued to build and add. And one of the most powerful tools we have now is a fight simulator. And the way that came about is, we've got a decent size audience. We've been doing this for a little while. And I got an email. And the email was like, hey, I'm a nuclear physicist and I love your show. And I built this tool and blah, blah, blah. And I immediately was like, well, this is spam. Like, I know my audience. They're not nuclear physicists. So I was like, no shot. This is real. And then I don't even know why I engaged, or maybe he sent a follow-up, and then we hopped on a call. And I was like, oh, like, shit, this guy really is a nuclear physicist. And he oh, okay. You got a globe behind him or something? You're like, uh-oh. I was just shocked that it wasn't a troll job. And so then he built, I forget what was the first tool he built, but he built the tool. Then we have a tool called the data analyzer. And then he built the simulator. And we're not the only people. There's really only 2 meaningful simulators in this space. One is SaberSim. They charge $300 a month. $300 a month. We charge 10. And I have always been in the volume mindset. Like, listen, I am going to cater to the 90% of people. I'm not going to try to find this tiny sliver of people that are willing to spend. We're going to do the 90% of people. So our philosophy is, this is a volatile sport. This sport is volatile. This is a crazy sport to bet on. It's a crazy sport to do fantasy with. So we're just going to keep adding to this membership. I want to make this the most undeniable value that has ever existed. And so the fight simulator is the latest addition to that. And that doesn't make me immune to being called every name you could ever imagine when I get a fight pick wrong. But what it does is, at the very least, gives people a million different options. Like, here's what I think, but here's a whole bunch of tools. Here's an artificial intelligence. If you want to do your own research, it's available to you. Do your own research, or take my word, have your own opinion, then click run simulation and see what that says. So we're just in this grind of like, I need to make, there's people that hate my guts. I get it. I speak very confidently. That annoys people for some reason. I'm aggressive. I'm aggressive. I don't take criticism well. Like, I know my flaws, and there's a lot of people that hate me for those flaws. Fine. All well and good. Pretty sure my wife hates me, so we're good. But I'm trying to build, like, listen, you could hate me, but there's no way you could go to my website and be like, this sucks. It's way. Impossible. And I'm just trying to further that. So it's like, dude, hate me all you want, but like, come on. That's what we're trying to build. And you guys, you bring up the price comparison as well too. That's the one thing Doc didn't want to do, like a lot of the other DFS sites. Yeah, they could have like 5,000 other tools, and Doc has worked with a lot of these individuals in the past as well. But he wanted to give something affordable to the working man as well too. You know, he doesn't want to charge you, say, $300 like you were saying a month, or $300, $400 for an entire season. He just does that. He gives you, you know, we have our own little where you can go to the subs only Discord, and you can just buy that package. You get all the cheat sheets for football, and you get that. You can use the code, you know, you can use the code word, and you can get a percentage off, and boom, you're in. Or you can just get that where you can get all the things. You know, we have for football, Chris Kennedy's been one of our biggest, he's been one of the best rankers over the last few years in the top rankings for pro football. So when you get somebody like that on your team, you get all that, it's just great to have it. And that, you brought up that fact. You're saying, hey, this is my thought, this is my theory. And I think that sometimes people, that's what adds, like when you say you had Jacob, Artem, and then Bet Sam, you have so many different unique views. You see who lines in with what, but you see when someone decides to take a stance and goes aside and goes, I'm putting my foot down, this is it. And if you as a consumer, as a fan go, you know what, I believe that, I'm going to stick with him, then that's giving you the right expert. I've always believed in find your expert, because if that expert plays exactly like you, you're more going to be in tune with them. But to also always listen to everything else so that you don't make bad mistakes and you can keep ending. Because honestly, you can cash practically every week with the UFC content that you have been providing and some of the stuff that I've been able to help with too. But as of over you can cash with that easy. You play a double up game. Yeah, you put 25 down, you might win 50 back. But you take that 50, you keep building until eventually you hit that big hit.
Yeah, it's definitely like you know, we're in a what have you done for me today world, and that's, you know, a TikTok algorithm type world, and I get that, and that's why, you know, if you guys, you have multiple packages, you have very reasonable price points, and that makes sense. You're doing multiple sports as well, so you could very easily go down the Roto Grinders path and just rob people, but you don't, and it's important because, like, our average customer tenure is spectacular. It's spectacular because at the end of the day, let's say you signed up last night and let's say we have the worst possible, nothing goes well. Yeah. It was $10. You'll give it another shot next week, and it won't go poorly next week. And then it's like, okay, all right, we're back. So that's why, to me, it was very important to keep the price keep it where it is. We have done nothing but add. It was a great value day one, and now here we are 2 years later. We've done nothing but add, and it is still a phenomenal value. But it is a tricky world because sometimes I'm a victim of my own success. I was a victim of my own success yesterday. For example, actually last week's a better example. Last week I was up money. It was a chaotic fight card, and I was up money. But my one bet, what I call the safety parlay, missed. And I'm a victim of my own success because I have been promoting the safety parlay for a long time. I've been talking about its accuracy. I call it the beacon of stability. And it has been. And it's done very, very well. Long term, it's done well short term also. But what's happened is, because it's done so well, the expectation is that it'll never be wrong. And so 2 weeks ago, 2 events ago, I was up money, the collective, me and all. I did 5 bets. I hit 4. I missed the 1. But the one I missed had a name. And because it had a name and because it's been so reliable for so long, safety miss. What the hell is this safety missed? And it's like, that's sort of the challenge here of balancing, like, hey, the collective was spectacular. This one thing didn't do well. And I know that one thing historically is reliable, so you put a lot of faith into that. But we also have these tools, and we have this, and we have that, and we have this. So it's a balancing act of, like, here's as many resources as humanly possible. Here's what we think, and here's how we feel. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Let's take this 1 week at a time, but you always have to zoom out and look at, let's say, a month. Look at a month. Don't look at an event. Don't look at, because you could have an unbelievable event. Next one's chaotic, and then we're back to it. Like, it's a very tricky environment where you are balancing today's reality, this week's reality, this month's reality, and it's a tough environment. But when you love the sport and you love what you do,
Yeah.
the hardest part is separating myself from the failures. The safety parlay missed.
Yeah.
We did well last night. The collective We Want Picks made money, mostly Jacob.
Yeah, of course.
But the collective We Want Picks did well yesterday. But my safety parlay missed, and I get in my own head, and I beat myself up, and I'm like, God, it takes a lot to not take that out on my family, like, because now I'm frustrated, and they're like, Daddy, it's like, leave me alone. So it's like it's a lot to have it not bleed into the rest of your life, but
Yeah, it is.
you just keep moving forward and doing the best you could possibly do.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, of course, with, like I said, with the football. And then for the weekends, I do the baseball bets. And then, of course, during the weekday, I do my five-tastic picks, which they were trying to put on MSN, the MSN portion of because we have a deal with MSN. They were trying to put it out there for free. But after 1 week, they were like, hell no, we can't have that out there. So they put it behind the paywall. And so, like, I evolved this. It started out as a picks kind of article. And then Doc came with me and goes, look, I don't understand fighting. And everything you just described to me described how you fight, but I'm lost. He goes, I'm still lost. So we cut it out. We threw in some DFS picks. That's just something I've always been able to do. Be contrarian. That's what I build myself on during football. I have the Ultra Contrarian show. So that was like the big thing. And you see it going down. And you get those people come back. Like this, one of the guys goes, hey, I play on Prize Picks. And I go, well, I play on these. So it was a first round knockout, whoever it was last week. Boom. On FanDuel, it scores like 140 points. And he gets like 39 points. And the over was like 46. And I'm like, bro, I can't help you there. I'm sorry that it lost. It's a first round knockout and you can't score more than 46 DFS points under their scoring format. I'm not familiar with it. I can't even do it because Prize Picks is unavailable in Pennsylvania other than some free thing you have to build up for. It's complete garbage. So that going forward, it's like that. And then you see, like the things that, FanDuel's doing, and I'm trying to bring that out, and I'm not going to go into it, but the one time FanDuel put out, it was the Murphy card. They put out the card and they had pricing discrepancies bad. And on Friday, they canceled everybody's entries, refunded everything, and made a whole new slate with new numbers. Now, they're allowed to do that, but it was like, come on, man. Like, you had this out for 3-4 days. So, since then, and I've noticed, I don't know if it's been going on as a trend, but I've noticed, especially with FanDuel, they've been getting out their lineups a lot later in the week.
It's like Friday afternoon. It's crazy.
Yeah, and we're trying to, like, I went to do a baseball bet today for the Cubs because they're going to abuse the hell out of that pitcher. And, I was like, okay, Pete Crow Armstrong. Okay, we need Michael Bush. All right, we need our guy, Kyle Tucker. They're going to smash the hell out of this guy. All right, where are we at? And then I go to the thing, and all they got is Ben Brown's strikeout. Like, okay, I'll take that, but come on, man. So I'll go to DK. Oh, look, we got some DK. So it goes into the article because that's where I was able to make that picks. But that, you want to hold out and you try not to hold, give the people options to make money, kind of what happened with the tackles. I caught them a few times with their tackles. That's why they only start the tackle props for football after the game starts now, because they don't have a way to gauge IDP, which is individual defensive player. I don't know if you play fantasy football, but
no.
That's where you pick like someone like TJ Watt. Boom, there you go. And you pick them and you get it. So like, seasonal wise, I give that. But when they go, TJ Watt's going to have more than 1.5 tackle, and they're predicted to win big. You're like, TJ Watt's going to have a sack. He's easily going to make at least 2 tackles, and they'll put the number at like a plus 110. So then I'll go smash it. But now it's a little different. Of course, you have to bend, you have to fold. DK itself allowed you to parlay that. They don't let you parlay that stuff anymore because, like one of the players last year I was able to take advantage of, Brian Cook, safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. They literally ran him at 3.5, 4.5 tackles for every game. Last year, his average was like 6.5. So it was just easy money all year long. I understand that. But those same advantages I see with this, and that's why I've been fighting so hard to bring it to the forefront, but also because of the community that websites like yourself and everybody have come together to describe. Is it toxic at times, especially with how big you are? You could definitely get real toxic. But at the same time, I also see that it's really rewarding too when we hit.
Of course. No, of course. And I have to remind myself that it's a very passionate sport. It's very like people, even if you look pre-results, right? If you look at any one of my breakdown videos and there people are giving their own predictions, it is just everybody's attacking each other. I think this guy wins. What are you, an idiot? Like everybody is 100% sure. There is never someone like maybe. Everybody's 100% sure. They attack each other. And the craziest thing to me is 8 seconds after a fight happens, people bang right back in that comment section to a stranger. Told you. Told you. It's like, dude, this is nuts. So, but that is, on one hand, it's not a bad thing. It's just passion for the sport. On the other hand, if you're on the receiving end of random internet, you're an idiot, I'm a genius. It takes everything in me. It takes everything in me because like I'll get the number one comment you get after you have a bad pick is like, how could you think like that was so thinking Damon Blackshear wins is dumb. It's like, oh, is it? Yeah. He's younger, faster. He's the better striker. He's the better grappler, and he beat the shit out of him the first round. So was that a crazy pick? So now, like, my reaction is like, tell you what, you list every single one of your picks for the next event right here.
Yep.
So we could all play Sunday Morning Genius or shut up.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts. But, I am reminded in real life, anytime I meet somebody, my wife and I went out to UFC 317. Anytime somebody came up, people couldn't be nicer, couldn't be cooler, couldn't be more normal. So it's just like, and it's hard. You can't judge tone in text either. So if I'm in my feels because I got a pick wrong or a bet wrong, and then I'm reading a comment that's like, oh, safety missed, I could read it, safety missed, or I could read it like, safety missed. And it's like, whatever mood I'm in is how I'm going to read it. And it's just, oh, man. So
Dude,
there's a lot of toxicity, but there's also a ton of love. And like, if a video gets 25,000 views and there's 20 nasty comments, it's like, okay, there was also 24,980 normal people that didn't call you a fat weirdo who got the picks wrong. It's like, all right.
Exactly.
I'll take that.
That's what that's where, like, again, that's what the whole.
Also, I did that math so fast again.
You're just amazing. That's definitely throw it down. That's what Bring the Pain is all about. That's what it started out as. Literally, I would call in on Sirius XM when Doc and this other guy, Tommy G, were on, and I would just talk shit on whatever player.
So you are a troll.
Well, that's what you could say that. I would talk shit live.
No, that's what
it was. It was. I would be like, I wouldn't talk towards the expert. I would talk towards the player. I would be like,
oh, okay.
Come on,
that is a little
Bell.
different. Yeah.
Yes. I don't troll like that. But if a troll goes to troll me, I have a skit called Things That Make Me a Jerk, and that they will end up on that. So I don't hold back. There's just no way. The only thing I was told that when I made Bring the Pain was to swear a little less and to just keep bringing that energy because of names attached to it. But at the same time, that's what makes it is. That's what makes the passion. And that's what, if you're going to go back and you're going to fire back at me about this, we could dance all day long. But in the end, where's your picks at? Oh, you're going to come in here and you're going to talk about that, the over 2.5 hit, but I had the knockout happening. Oh, that's a big deal. Did you put the house on that? Did you put the house on that? Because if you put the house on that without consulting in me before you make that bet, and you just did it because of what you thought you were doing was right, then that's why you need services like what you provide. That's it. That's exactly the whole thing and the premise of it. Again, it goes back to not hitting the freaking place bet button, right? Look, we could sit here and bet home runs all day, right? But guess what? Somebody's going to be right. Somebody's going to be wrong. But in the end, it's about the consistency that you have built with your company over the time period since you have started your company that allows you to say what you say and do it whatever way you want to say it. If you want to be cocky about it, be cocky as shit. But if you want to be humble about it, you can be humble about it. But guess where the humble people end up? Outside looking for crumbs. They ain't getting shit on our watch. We need to bring the pain.
You do get fired up, shit.
Oh, that's why they're trying to contain me in these point fights. Because I'm so highly aggressive, and that's just the style. That's who I am. I don't know if that's the Italian in us, but that's it. That's it.
I'm not as I'm aggressive. I'm not as fiery as I moving to Texas has calmed me down quite a bit. I'm aggressive in that I have no everything to me is a conflict. I just assume anybody who says something, I just assume it's a conflict. Like if you, I don't assume like it's coming from a good place. I assume most criticisms come from a negative place. So my brain is like, this is a conflict.
Yeah.
But I have to do, I've been trying to do a better job of like, you can't argue with everybody. That's impossible.
No, and the thing is when you get it right, they're all like, woo, cheer it. But you know what? Here's the thing about them. They can give all the negative comments that they want. In the end, they still hit the like button because they don't even know what the hell they're doing. So seriously, you still gave me the view, bro. And seriously, go on.
One of the most beneficial things YouTube rolled out is I obviously can see every comment. And if I click on somebody's profile picture, I can see every comment they've ever left. So that actually is very helpful. Because if somebody does leak a negative comment and I tap their profile picture and it's like, oh, this is a reasonable human being that in the past has been like, I like this, I don't like this, this was great, this was bad, perfectly reasonable. But if I tap on it and you've only left 10 comments and every single one of those comments is like, whatever. Like Jacob gets a lot because he puts out a lock of the week. It is an underdog. It's basically a play on words. It's an underdog every single week. This week, he did a plus 900 parlay. And interestingly enough, he had 2 underdogs in it and a favorite. And the person who blew the parlay was a favorite. The 2 underdogs that he put in there won. And people couldn't wait to jump on him. And I know part of that is just in good fun. Like literally the culture, it's in good fun. Like, another fade of the week. But some of them were like wildly like, so I tap it and I look at it and then I'll see a profile. And it's like, this person has only left comments on the lock of the week video and only when it loses. And it's like, dude, that's the life we're trying to live. But for the most part, and I know it sounds like, oh, it's all just negative. No, for the most part, it's a wild wave immediately after the fights, right? Immediately after fights, everybody has all this pent up, like either excitement or rage or I can't believe this happened or wow, I can't believe this happened. And it's all just pent up and they just flood their last comment or the video or, because there was a lot of positivity yesterday too, because I picked a couple of massive underdogs. The first 3 fights, a plus 300 dog won who I picked. The second fight was a big favorite. The third fight was another plus 3 dog. I picked him as well. And throughout that hour that those 3 fights happened, comments were coming in. Did Budai pick hit? Great job. Oh, I can't believe we just got Elikana. And I was like, oh, nice. And then, then it went off the rails. But it is like, I do love all the feedback. Obviously, I could do without, you fat goblin. I could do without that. But, I do, it's all appreciated. Because if, what's worse than getting called fat every now and then on the internet is no interaction whatsoever. It's like, so, I'm a human, so I get in my own, like, don't call me that. But outside of that, it's like, I'm happy you're here. Genuinely happy you're here. And there's honestly probably something to learn from why'd you pick this idiot? It's like, honestly, why did I pick that idiot? I don't know.
Well,
won't do it again.
We could talk. I just throw this in real quick because I know we've been going an hour, so I know that, I'm thankful for this time. But like, I fought this other world champ because nobody would fight me. I won my division. I was first place. And so that was out. And he won. So they wanted an exhibition match. Well, they didn't tell me this dude was a double black belt. And I was like, all right, because he had a purple belt on. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm a purple belt, working on my brown belt this year. And I'm like, this should be, So I go to the guy, and it's literally, he's got spina bifida or something. So he has like half a spine, whatever that is. So my last fight prior to this guy was a 6'5" giant. I had to literally be cautious, couldn't blitz, had to watch because, he just puts the hand out, point fight, boom. He gets he tore my head up anyway because that's all that I exposed, but I took his body out and got all the points in that way. But I was like, you would look at me and you go, okay, 19-year-old world champion, double world champion. How's this guy a world champion? Well, I figured out. He beat me at the last. I went to blitz him. He sidekicked the shit out of me, and that's it. But I was missing. My back fist was going over his head. You know, he was faster than me because he was young. And, you know, at times, I don't change up my game plan. And we've seen that recently, too, in a lot of fights. And you know, kind of like you could go back to Zellhuber last week. Like, literally, his corner said, you got to knock him out. And he went out there, and the first thing he did was throw head kicks at that Philly shell again, man. And I'm like, you got to know. So sometimes fighters can be numbskulls. We don't calm down. We do stupid stuff. We get it. But then, you know, eventually we do get it. We do listen. But if you're winning and you're doing all that stuff, it's great. It's when you're losing and you see them doing that numbs. Fight IQ is a huge thing. And that is what, like you said, brings the live element to things that, like, what you do. The picks that we give, the stats that you put out, the information that all of you and your team give provide a unique experience and broad horizon that once you find those bets, you hit those bets, I guarantee if you take a bet from each one, a strong bet from each one of everybody in your team, they're going to end up positive every single week with a lot of money, and they'll have nothing to bitch about.
God, I hope so. I hope so.
That's what we did. Again, I appreciate the time. So go ahead, plug yourself, man. Tell everybody about We Want Picks, where they can find you, what you're all about, and your team.
No, listen, I appreciate you having me. We're We Want Picks everywhere, every social, YouTube. WeWantPicks.com is a website. Just break down fights. We have some fun doing it. Try to give some solid insight. And anybody who wants and a little bit of an edge, some tools and some bets and a little bit more on the website. We have a whole suite of tools and information. One of the most popular things right now, though, are Jacob, my partner's live streams. On Saturdays, he watches the fights. He's live for 7 hours straight. He's placing bets for every fight. He's getting chat input. And 2 of the last 3 weeks, so for every fight card, he does a main card parlay. Yeah. But they're not his picks. It's the chat's picks. There's about anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200, 1,300 people in there. Mm-hmm. And their picks, he builds a full main card parlay. 2 weeks ago, it hit. It hit last night for $1,700. And it's not his picks. It's the chat. So he's got a lot of, they're the most interactive sort of live streams you're ever going to get. So watch those. If you have a Saturday, you're watching some fights and you don't want to hear the typical commentary, just listen to his.
Yeah, no, that you're right about that. You get that. I love doing that. That had led to a 20K or 200K hit last year. One of the guys in our Discord was throwing at. He took my Ultra Contrarian. He literally moved one guy out. I went nuclear this week too, but he went nuclear. But he threw down in the right contest, which was a $150 or $200 entry, and first place was the $200,000. Never heard from him again. But
yeah, I imagine.
That time, well, I probably would have did it too. You know, I'm sitting here with like, yeah, guys, look at me. I won $500. He's like, hey, guys, deuces. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's the way to go. But yeah, man, I definitely think I was going to call in the other night, but this fire that I bring sometimes, it gets a little wild. And I just got home from fighting. So I know that sometimes when I get home from fighting, it's not the best thing to pop in live.
Sure.
Because my Adrenaline 11 is so jacked. So, again, I love doing this. I'll make sure you should be able to pull out the recordings for this at the end. If not, I'll make sure that you're able to get it. Any skits of this, audio-wise, video-wise, that you can pull for this for your entertainment. That's great. I'll put this on the Dr. Roto Network. It'll probably air free as well, or not free, but on the Dr. Roto Network as well too. So we're going to make sure we get this out, and everybody follow We Want Picks. Angelo and the team is getting it constantly done, and that's how we do it. That's how we really. Thanks again, Angelo, for coming on today.
No, appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Ooh, yeah. Always remember to bring the pain. Ooh, yeah. Mikey. There it is.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. Until the next visit, be well and take care.